Amidst rumours that Boris Johnson might be gunning for Theresa May and going after the top job in number 10, there's also rumours of a plot to oust Theresa May and replace her with somebody totally different. So there's been a lot of talk lately about the potential of Boris Johnson becoming the next PM, going for the leadership of the Tory party, and I definitely think it's going to happen at some point. I mean, have you seen the video recently of him going out from his house with mugs of tea on a tray, offering reporters a cup of tea and saying, "I've got no comments about my burqa comments, but other than to give you a cup of tea." And he comes out wearing Hawaiian shorts and a sports t-shirt, and his hair's all over the place. He's very clever. He's positioning himself as the normal guy, the guy that people want to support. That's why he amazingly was the Tory mayor of London in London. The Tory, I don't think the Tories could ever win again in London, but if Boris stood, maybe they could, because people like him. So he's really, really smart, and it seems to me that he really is going for the top job at this point. But that's in the long term. In the shorter term, it appears that there might be another plot, one to remove Theresa May and replacing her with an interim Prime Minister, David Davis. So the Mail on Sunday reported on this, and they said, Boris Johnson is being urged to anoint David Davis as interim Prime Minister as part of a Brexiteer putsch to oust Theresa May as early as October, the Mail on Sunday can reveal. The burqa row, which has engulfed the party in the wake of Mr Johnson's incendiary remarks about Islamic dress, has emboldened anti-May plotters who think it could help trigger a leadership contest when MPs return to the Commons next month. Senior allies of Mr Davis have told this newspaper a contest will be a disaster for the country, so the party should agree to make the former Brexit secretary a caretaker leader until after the UK leaves the EU. They have privately urged Mr Johnson to agree to the plan and postpone his bid for leadership until Mr Davis steps down. So that's interesting. If you've been watching my show recently, or at least over the last few months, you'll have heard me talking about this and the fact that, well, if there is a leadership challenge, then there's the question of democracy and the question of whether we've got to go back to the public for another general election, whether actually a new leader who gets elected might think that they can gain more power by holding an election, like Theresa May thought she could, but then it all goes wrong. There's a lot of questions surrounding getting a new permanent leader of the Tories. So this idea of an interim leader means that they can quickly replace Theresa May, get on with Brexit, do the job properly, get over it, and then return to normal and maybe have a leadership challenge where Boris Johnson runs to be leader, becomes leader, and then maybe Boris holds a general election and wins back some Tory seats because he's a more likeable character than Theresa May. My personal feelings on this, I feel like David Davis is probably the right choice. I'm not a supporter of the Tories. I don't think they're Conservatives. But while they're in government, I, of course, want them to do well on Brexit. So David Davis I'm pretty sure, would do a good job of that. He's been one of the most staunch Brexiteers from the beginning. I do think that Boris will probably become party leader at some point, but, that's in the future. Now, I don't like him. I don't think he's got any solutions. Take, for instance, his burqa comments. He talked about the burqa, well, he mocked the burqa, and instead of talking about the oppression of women, instead of talking about the fact that the burqa, covering of one's face, flies in the face of the trust system that we use in Western civilization, in Western culture, the system of trust, knowing who people are. The fact that it flies in the face of that, he didn't talk about that, he just mocked it. And he didn't offer any solutions either. He could have suggested banning it. 59% of British people want it banned, so it wouldn't have been a crazy thing to do. But yeah, that's my point. He's not a solutions guy, so I'm not a fan. But I think people will support him, especially in a general election. UKIP supporters will go for him, maybe some Labour, but probably not that many. What I think he'll do is consolidate the UKIP Tory vote again, and allow the Tories to win in a majority like Cameron just about managed to a few years ago. Boris is the Trump-like candidate. He'll say the things that normal people say, but he won't actually do anything about it. That's how he'll win. Very, very sad state of politics when that's the case. I think it's a disaster. If Boris wins, I'll be at his heels and holding him to account every day, but I think it's likely going to happen. But this idea of David Davis becoming interim Prime Minister, I think is really interesting and something I probably support. If you want to see more from me and the rest of the Rebel team, remember to like and subscribe.